It is easy to take hybrid technology for granted these days. After all, there were nearly 100,000 full hybrids sold in the UK alone in 2019, and their popularity is only on the rise further as diesel falls out of favour. But of course, hybrid technology had to start somewhere, and it started with these two, the Mark I Honda Insight and Toyota Prius. Or to be precise, there actually was hybrid technology around a lot longer before that. In 1900, somebody called Ferdinand Porsche created something that was more range extender than hybrid. Got no idea where he went on to, by the way. Anyway, while these weren't the very first hybrids, they did popularise hybrid technology like never before, and they did it in very different ways. The Honda made its mark by taking fuel efficiency to the extreme. The 67 brake horsepower, 1 litre, 3-cylinder petrol engine is assisted by a 13 brake horsepower electric motor, which itself is powered by a bank of nickel metal hydride batteries located behind the seats. Note that there are only 2 seats, not only because of the batteries taking up space, but also because of the Insight's tapering bullet-shaped body. At launch, this was the most aerodynamic car in production anywhere. It is tiny too. The Insight is only 1.7 metres wide, which is barely any wider than a Smart Fortwo is in 2020. Not only that, but it weighs 850 kilograms, which is super light, and thanks to that faired-in rear wheel and the tapering rear end, it has a drag coefficient of 0.25, all of which meant that the Insight could do over 83 mpg under official tests, which was a remarkable figure. So, while Honda set about grabbing headlines with its radical engineering and styling, Toyota took a very different approach and set about making hybrid technology viable for the masses. And boy, did it do it. Originally only sold in Japan from 1997, Toyota expanded sales of the Mark I Prius to global markets in 2000. Complete with a 71 brake horsepower 1.5 litre 4-cylinder petrol engine and a nickel metal hydride battery pack and 39 brake horsepower electric motor, it returned economy of some 57 mpg. Not as efficient as the Insight then, but the Prius is significant for various other reasons, not least the fact that it is ultimately the template by which the modern hybrid family car has been cut. So it's a full hybrid, which means that you can run on pure electric alone, or the electric motor can assist the petrol motor, and it's the setup that has become the most successful in the mainstream market. And it's the setup that has sold Toyota well over 10 million hybrid cars since the Prius was launched. So I think that's a tick for the successful hybrid then, isn't it? And do you know what? It does just astonish me how close this feels even to a modern Prius. Everything from the dash top readout there, which pretty much stayed the same on like the next 2 generations of Prius, and even the power flow graphic as well is remarkable because it's so similar to what you get in a Prius 20 years after this car arrived. You can totally see the roots of the current Prius, which we all know to be a landmark car. They're absolutely on show here. Toyota basically nailed the Prius first time round. Sure, it wasn't until the Mark II Prius turned up that it started to sell in big numbers because this was expensive. So was the Honda. Honda famously made a loss on every Mark I Insight that it sold. But while these cars were expensive and didn't pick up initially, given that alternative diesels were so much cheaper to buy, clearly they have proved a point that hybrid technology does work. And driving them today, I mean, yes, the Prius is boring, but you know what? I really rather like it. It's got those skinny little 14-inch tyres, and so it's got quite an interesting ride comfort. The lean on it's hilarious, but it's got a surprising amount of grip. And I tell you what, the steering, it's really nice. It's very light. And it feels like it's got about 10 turns lock to lock. You think you would have reached maximum lock, and then there's another turn and a half. So it's got a really tiny turning circle. And even the sort of the sit up and beg driving position in it, and really high roof, all of that. It's actually a surprisingly likeable car. Yes, boring, but in terms of its significance, this is a really, really important car. I am so excited to be having a go at an Insight. I've never driven the Mark I Insight, and it is one of those cars that weirdly, even car enthusiasts who might traditionally not like hybrids, they get excited about it too, because it's just such an eccentric car, and because it is one of those rare cars where the manufacturer went, right, we want you to achieve the most efficient car, and it doesn't matter if they say the most efficient or the fastest, the smallest, the lightest, whatever. As soon as a manufacturer gives its engineers freedom to just achieve that one goal, that often is when you really get the milestone cars, the really original cars. And that is exactly what the Insight is. It's absolutely original. There's been nothing like it since, and there was nothing like it before. And in that respect, it's just fantastic. And it's really good fun to drive as well. So you get a little 1 litre, 3-cylinder petrol engine, and that is assisted by an electric motor. And it is different to the Prius in that it's not a full hybrid, because the electric motor doesn't really drive the Insight on its own. It only assists that petrol engine and therefore helps with the economy. So that does make it quite a different hybrid setup. But it doesn't detract from the fact that this is still a remarkably efficient car. Like I said, I mean, there are owners out there that have reported doing 90 mpg and more, even 100 mpg, or who've averaged 70 mpg and more over hundreds of thousands of miles. So in that respect, it is a champion, because it's just so economical. And I just love it. I love the little steering wheel. I like the fact that it's got quite a sporty driving position, quite low set. It's got the lovely sweeping pillars. Everything about it, ironically, actually quite encourages you to drive it hard. I like the manual gearbox as well. It's got a little 5-speed gearbox, and even the pedals are quite well placed for heeling and towing. So it's great. It's really, really good for driving efficiently, or to be honest, weirdly, you can actually drive it quite hard and have quite a lot of fun in it, despite those little skinny 14-inch wheels. So there you have it, the Insight. Somewhat surprisingly, it is as fun to drive as it looks. And yet it is still one of the most economical cars that have ever been made. Having these two legendary hybrids side by side only goes to prove how different they are in concept and intention. The Honda is the extraordinary interpretation of what Toyota set out to make absolutely ordinary. And they both set out to prove that hybrid technology is very reliable, and they did it. You can buy these cars all over the globe with 200,000 miles or more on. And of course, what they really wanted to do was to prove that hybrid technology has a place in the mainstream market, which back at the turn of the 21st century felt like quite a radical thing to do, but I think you'll agree that with 20 years on, they've proven their point. Head to drivingelectric.com for all of the electric and hybrid car advice, news and reviews you could possibly want, and check us out on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. While you're here, don't forget to hit subscribe on our YouTube channel.